Hello, everyone, and welcome to Staff Picks, a WPL program where library staff from across the system get together to share their love of reading with you, the community. Today, we want to start by acknowledging that Winnipeg is on Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. Thank you for being with us today. We're very excited for this one. Each episode of Staff Picks has a theme, and today's theme is Fairytale Retellings. Book nerd. This is like one of my favorites. Every book that we are mentioning today is featured in the library collection, sometimes in multiple formats and languages. And the books in every episode will be listed in an info guide, which we will tag in the video description below, so that you can refer back to it and find these books easily. So how does this work? It's a round robin style. So I am going to start, and then we're going to take turns passing through and talking about 5 books. We're going to talk about 3 a little bit more in depth, and then we have a lightning round where we get through things quick, fast, hurry. Yeah, so we're going to start with introductions. My name's Courtney. Oh, I didn't think about this at all. What is my favorite fairy tale? All of them. Oh, that's such a cop-out, but it's happening. Lori, you're next.
Well, how am I going to follow that one? I actually have 1 or 2 favorites. One of the ones that I was always intrigued with as a child was The Princess and the Pea, because there's been a lot of retellings of that one, reimaginings of that one. But as a child, I did try sleeping on a pea, and to my dismay, I got a good night's sleep. So I guess I'm not a princess.
And I'm Austin. My pronouns are he, him. And I think for me, I'm going to have to go with Beauty and the Beast, mainly just because of the Disney movie. And I was a big Belle fan as a kid. But yeah.
I wonder if that had anything to do with becoming a librarian. Awesome. So those are our introductions. We're going to get started. Unfortunately, you have to listen to me talk more, but that's okay. Now, not to get all librarian-y here, as I said, book nerd, but there are subtle differences between fairy tales, myths, legends, folklore and folk tales is the word I was trying to say there, and fables. What? All that means there are subtle differences. It's not like if you're going to get really into it, yeah, there are differences. Like some have a morality component, some have a religious basis, or they go back to a culture's belief system. Legends have sometimes a historical basis, folk tales, kind of like a combination. Are we sticking truly right to the facts here? In society now, they kind of blend a little bit, and that's okay. We're just trying to read some fun stories and share different retellings because different cultures take them in different ways, and it's really exciting to see how we can put a new twist on some old tales. This is a really studied part of literature, actually. There's a lot of research tools that trace these motifs and the narrative ideas, the revisions, and the variants across the cultures. And it's interesting because sometimes these terms that we talked about are used interchangeably, but like I'm going to start with this book, Straight On Till Morning, which is part of Disney's Twisted Tale series. This is based on Peter Pan, and I'm already breaking the rules because technically Peter Pan isn't a fairy tale. Nah, that's okay. We're going to roll with it anyway. So, Straight On Till Morning is written by Liz Broswell. It was written in 2020. The graphic novel came out in 2024. Both are great. It's a YA fiction. The genre is fantasy. As I said, it's part of Disney's Twisted Tale series, which we have a lot of books in the catalog because they're great. And it's a retelling of Peter Pan through Wendy's point of view. And it's about 488 pages. And the hook is, what if Wendy first traveled to Neverland with Captain Hook? That kind of throws everything akimbo. The Twisted Tale series is a what if spin on a classic Disney Pixar stories. They're books as well as graphic novels, as I said, and they're fairy tales with a twist, which makes the title make sense. Each book looks through a different lens. So, what if Aladdin never found the genie's lamp? What if Sleeping Beauty never woke up? What if Cinderella never tried on the glass slipper? So in this version of Peter Pan, we're looking at 16-year-old Wendy's life if she hadn't met Peter, and she never went to Neverland. That's an interesting place to start Peter Pan, I tell you. Her brothers are off at school. Her life isn't quite what she expects it to be, and she kind of escapes by still writing the stories of Neverland, like from her imagination, in a hope that it still exists. But she has Peter's shadow, and she's had it for 4 years. So she almost met him, but she didn't quite. But she's kind of running out of options and things to do. And so Wendy makes a deal with Captain Hook to get to Neverland, but it's not quite what she expected. So in this version, we're seeing things from a different lens. And that's why I chose it, because in this version, Tinkerbell and Wendy work together, which is different. And I've read a lot of these Twisted Tales books. We all know Courtney loves a feminist story, and this one, because they're working together like that, and it's not competitive, it's more, well, in the beginning maybe, but they get to the point where they're trusting each other and working on it together. I just found it was a nice updated version, a reimagining with like today's considerations. Um, and the graphic novel complements it nicely. Let's see. Like, it's good art. And I also find these are two ways to interact with the story differently. This is good for younger readers who maybe need more help getting through. And this one, as you can see, it's a little bit beastie, is more atmospheric. So they're good for kind of two levels, or for anyone who just likes to read fairy tales, graphic novels, any of those things. Yeah. If I was saying honorable mentions in this category, Dorothy Must Die by Danielle Page is kind of in the same vein of these books. Also, Cinderella is Dead by Kaylin Bayron. And everything I've read by both of those authors, I really enjoyed. They do a lot of retellings of different things, and they're just good writers. So yeah, that's Straight on Till Morning from the Disney Twisted Sales series, and I love it. It's good. Give it a go. Now Lori's going to tell us about something else.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Courtney. I had no idea that any of those things existed. So I am madly making notes as you are speaking. I'm going to be going back and seeing all those twisted tales because I too love a retelling. I love the idea for me, like doing the reading for this, which took me all summer, just trying to narrow down the categories. But it's also a lot of it seems to be almost a reclamation. So many of the original stories are about women getting into trouble and needing to be rescued and everything else. And I find that a lot of what I've read has been just taking that and turning it on its head. And speaking as a woman, I'm very grateful to see that going on. So my first pick for today is called A Spindle Splintered. It's by Alex E. Harrow, who is a brilliant writer in all things. Recommend everything that she has written. This one in particular, though, is a twist on Sleeping Beauty. In the author's own words, this is Sleeping Beauty meets Into the Multiverse. So it really brings in it brings in your basic Sleeping Beauty characters, but twists it. And it takes the Sleeping Beauty trope and blends it with another one that has become, it's kind of fallen out of favor these days, but it's still a thing, is sicklet, particularly sick chicklet, where you've got somebody who is on their deathbed and is trying to make sense of that or to find a way to carry on with their life, face the end of their life, etc. In this case, this is Zinnia. Our main character. She is doomed. She's been told that she will not live much past her 21st birthday. She's been sick all of her life. And so she winds up on her 21st birthday. Her best friend throws a huge party for her, princess themed. And lo and behold, Zinnia pricks her finger on a spindle, winds up in another dimension where she is surrounded by the more traditional fairy tale trappings. You have a castle, you have a beautiful princess, you have got her being married to somebody that she really does not want to marry, and she is caught in the Sleeping Beauty web. So Zinnia teams up with this princess who, as it turns out, is really not quite as serene and calm and, oh, yes, this is all good, as one would expect from the more original tellings. It's a great story. It's very short. So this is a good one. Like if you're looking for a very quick kind of a read, it is very short, but it belies the shortness. It brings in a lot of ideas and then lets you explore them, which I really like. So it's not a short story, it's more of a novella. And it was interesting to me too, because I went down a little rabbit hole here, nod to Courtney and her pick. the original tellings of Sleeping Beauty, which I was not really familiar with. And there's a lot of really awful stuff that happens to Cinderella and, or pardon me, to Sleeping Beauty and some of these other stories. And it's touched on in these ones. One of the origin stories, as they call it, actually has Sleeping Beauty gets pregnant while she is asleep, and other things happen to her before she winds up going into her sleep. But this story has a good ending, in my view. There is a bit of a surprise at the end, which will lead you into A Mirror Mended. I really say that you should get both of these at the same time, because I did not, and I had a miserable weekend having read the first one. I had to wait to get the second one. Didn't love that. So Alex E. Harrow, A Spindle Splintered, a really interesting take on Sleeping Beauty, and one that I think you will really enjoy reading.
All right, very nice. So my first retelling is Spinning Silver. This is a 2018 award-winning novel by Naomi Novik and is loosely based on the tale of Rumpelstiltskin. So it's 466 pages long, and you can find it in both physical and digital format in the collection. So for the plot, Spinning Silver takes place in a fantasy version of in medieval Eastern Europe called Lithvis, kind of Russian, Lithuanian, and stars Miriam. So Miriam is the daughter of a money lender, but her father is a bit of a softie. So Miriam decides to take matters into her own hand and begin to collect the family's debts, and turns out she's very good at it. But in this process, she gets a reputation for being able to turn silver into gold, which attracts the attention of the Staryik, which are like these icy fairy creatures. I kind of think of them like the White Walkers from Game of Thrones, but a bit less zombie-like for sure. They're more fairy. And their king, the king of the Staryik, takes up an interest in Miriam. And as their fates kind of become intertwined, she uncovers a secret that threatens to consume both of their kingdoms. So like what Lori was saying, I really like when a retelling is so good that you want to go and look up the original story and kind of find out where the references are. And I did that even before the first chapter was done. I was reading that Rumpelstiltskin Wikipedia page. And yeah, the story is no different. There's a lot of interesting connections to the original story, like the concepts of turning things into gold, characters making deals with supernatural beings, and also the importance of names is another part of this book. But it goes in some really cool, unexpected directions too. And nowadays, there's a lot of rhetoric online about Rumpelstiltskin maybe having some anti-Semitic elements. So I think this story, kind of what Lori was saying too, does a really good job of reclaiming that. Novik made Miriam a really fleshed out and authentic Jewish character, which I haven't seen in a lot of fantasy. So, you know, in her interactions with her Christian neighbors, or even how the difficulties in practicing Shabbat in a magical land with no sunset kind of thing. So that was really interesting, and I haven't seen that a lot. Another thing I really liked in this book, as well as a lot of these retellings, is kind of the way magic works in them. So, you know, I read a lot of fantasy like Brandon Sanderson, where magic is very strict and there's these rules that must be followed. And in these books, you know, magic is a lot more kind of ancient and mysterious and nebulous, and authors kind of get to play with it a lot more, which I really like. You know, they're more about like an oath sworn or the changing of the seasons and things like that. So that was really cool. I found this book started really grounded, but then kind of gets more fantastic as the reader gets more familiar with the Staryik and the different otherworldly forces at play. So yes, I definitely recommend this book. I was initially introduced to Novik's writing through her Deadly Education trilogy, and I liked those, but I think I liked this more. I just found it was a bit more mature, a bit more grounded to me personally. But if you like this book, Naomi also has Uprooted, which was her book before this, and it's another fairy tale retelling based on Polish folklore. So you might want to check that one out too. Back to Courtney.
It's so nice that people are, like, these writers are finding these stories and taking out the problematic elements that just, we don't want to do that. We don't want to have those kind of things. I like that they're kind of, it's nice to reclaim something and make it better. So in that vein, 6 Crimson Cranes. If you don't know Elizabeth Lim, who also writes for Disney Twisted Tales, which I didn't remember until I was looking into this. I love her stuff. Anything she writes, I gravitate to. Six Crimson Cranes is 2021 book. It's a YA fiction in fantasy. You won't feel it. It'll go by like this. It's so fast. It's the first book in a duology. The second book is called The Dragon's Promise. It's a retwelling or a retelling, whatever you prefer, of the Wild Swans, among other variants. It's quite a popular story that gets a fairy tale that gets redone a lot. We have it both print, ebook, and audiobook. So if I was trying to hook it for you, it'd be like a princess in exile, the boy she left at the altar, six enchanted cranes, and a shape-shifting dragon from the deepest sea. Like that's a lot of things. It will take more than magic to break an unspeakable curse to find their way home. Like that's fairy tale bow wrapped. Here we go. Let's it's got all the things. I was just really taken by this book. It's one of those ones that has 5 stars on my Goodreads. I will eventually read everything that Elizabeth Lim writes because I enjoy her lyrical style so much. She's just very captivating in her narrative style. The Wild Swans is originally a Danish fairy tale by Hans Christian Andersen about a princess who rescues her brothers from a spell cast by an evil queen. So it turns them into swans by day, and by night they're themselves. In this version of the fairy tale, Elizabeth Lim uses Asian folklore to put a different twist on the story, which I really liked. So instead of swans, we have cranes and other elements like that. So on a particularly fateful day, as you know, they always are in a fairy tale, Princess Shiori unleashes a forbidden magic when she's trying to avoid a betrothal ceremony to this guy. She's not into it, which leads to her, of course, being banished by her evil stepmother. And then she's left unable to speak, or her brothers, who have been turned into cranes, will die. That's a lot. That's a bad day. That's a bad fairy tale day. So Shiori has to find a way to save her family in a world where nothing is quite as it seems, with the help of a paper bird, Kiki, who's amazing, a dragon, and her betrothed. Yeah, because there's nothing better than saving the world with a guy you don't want to marry. But it is very like take back the power, a woman who's not a damsel in distress, like could be, maybe was originally, but is really reowning her story. And so that I like that element of the book too. It's just easy to tell that this is a good retelling. That's kind of why I chose it. It's has those original elements, but like we were saying, just kind of translates everything and makes it new and different and exciting, but also approachable. Um, yeah, it just stuck with me all the years since I read it. Like it's like, no, that's a 5 star. Let's do this one. Honorable mentions are any of her other books. She did the Spin the Dawn series, and she's got a whole bunch of other things. Also, Canadian writer E.K. Johnson has one that I really like called A Thousand Nights, which is kind of in the vein of this, and it's a retelling of the Arabian Nights original, but it's like also thrown on its head, and it very much reminds me of Six Crimson Cranes, which so now Laurie will tell you more more fairy tale retelling.
Oh, how can I follow that? So many things. I want to read all of this stuff, and then we'll just cut this short, and I'm going to grab the books that both of you have recommended to date. So I want to thank Courtney for expanding the sandbox in terms of our readings and books that we're able to present, because my next choice is called Sherwood, which is, of course, a retelling of Robin Hood in the Forest of Sherwood, which is not technically a fairy tale. It is a tale that has been around a long time. There's been so many tellings of it in film and in musicals, and there's been satires. There's so much going on. And there have been other ones done from Maid Marian's perspective. But for this one, it is a little bit different to me. Like Megan Spooner, I love her writing just because she has a lot of beautiful writing in her style. And to me, it really elevated this book, because honestly, the plot is not terribly original. It is, but it's the writing that gets to me. And I like just her way of talking about like Marian, and again, not being this serene kind of figure or this dainty little person who's just tripping through life and then suddenly acquires a whole bunch of skills just by putting on somebody else's cloak. So it is, as it sounds, Marian winds up dressing as a man. Again, another trope that we see so often in fairy tales and in other things, because if you look like a woman, you just can't get it done. She dresses as a man to rescue her maid's brother, who and in so doing, she is mistaken for Robin Hood, and then she continues in disguise to carry on his work. The story actually opens with, and spoiler alert, with the death of Robin Hood. You're going to read it in the first couple of pages, so it's really not a huge spoiler. But one of the things, again, that I like so much about her writing is just the beautiful prose that she has. I've been experiencing some stuff in my life lately, and I just found that this was a very impactful comment for me. As I'll just read a quote from here. Grief, thought Marion, is not the melancholy meandering of song, not the long and dwindling sense, but it was splashes. It was remembering again and again and enduring each time the pain afresh. So just that really struck me and stayed with me. And also, I've included this in our sandbox conversation simply because fairy tales were also originally, in some regards, ways to explain the concepts of darkness and evil to children, and ways to give you some guidance through life. So I feel like this is a great acknowledgement in a lot of ways of what you can do working through grief. And, if you're rocking a green cloak while you do it, so much the better. I'm going to turn it over to Austin now because I can't wait to hear what he has to say and which book he's going to share.
All right, thank you, Lori. So similarly with the last pick, this is not technically a fairy tale retelling, but it is The Bright Sword by Lev Grossman, and it is a King Arthur, so a legend retelling. And sort of the tagline is, a gifted young knight arrives at Camelot to compete for a spot on the round table, only to find he's too late. So Bright Sword is a fantasy novel that came out last year by Lev Grossman. He also wrote the Magician series. I listened to it on audiobook, and it was narrated by Nicholas Guy Smith, but there's also the physical book and ebook in our collections. It is a whopping 688 pages, but is worth it, I promise. And I didn't know how thick it was when I started the audiobook. When I saw it on our shelves, I was like, whoa, I listened to that? That's crazy. So this King Arthur retelling centers around the story of Colin. He's a wannabe knight from the distant island of Mull, and he travels to Camelot to join the Round Table. Once he arrives, however, similarly, spoiler, but happens very early in the book, he learns that King Arthur died in battle weeks ago, and that the only remaining knights of the table are a group of misfits. So these misfits are kind of a group of interesting and lovable knights. They include Sir Bedivere, Sir Palomides, Sir Dinadan, Sir Dagonet, and Sir Scorpio. And they kind of form the core and heart of the story. Britain in this book is a really dark and lawless place, but these characters are really lovable and have really great interactions with each other. And kind of peppered throughout the book are chapters that are devoted to their individual backstories and kind of how they came to join the Round Table and become knights. And to me, the best part of this retelling is kind of the way these minor characters from King Arthur mythology take the center stage. And they also add some much needed diversity to the story and the setting. So through this group, Grossman explores, themes of religion, sexuality, gender identity, race, and the immigrant experience that just wouldn't be possible if it was just a bunch of British knights chatting with each other. So that's a really good inclusion and makes it a really good modern retelling. But of course, make no mistake, there are lots of traditional Arthurian characters and quests throughout the book that fans will know to expect. But they often kind of go in very different versions than what's been presented in the past, not to spoil anything, but it's a lot of fun to kind of tease out what the characters' motives are that have been very clear before, kind of thing. So as I said up top, I listened to this book as an audiobook. And in some ways, it's kind of tricky to listen to it as an audiobook because it is quite long. There's some very meandering kind of quests and backstories. But there's also just something so nice about being read to by a nice sounding British man with King Arthur. It's just like you're sitting around a fire with a bunch of knights, perfect for kind of rainy days. So I definitely recommend giving it a try if you do like audiobooks. And I think it's just a great modern retelling. It's perfect for fans of King Arthur, but if you're like me and you weren't super familiar with the original story, just kind of had the rough outline in your head, I think it's also really good for that too. So that's it for that.
These are making my to be read list grow, and it's already ridiculous. I like it though. Okay, next we have Echo North by Joanna Ruth Meyer. This is a book from 2019. It's an adult book. It's obviously fantasy. It is the first book in the Echo North series. The second book is called Wind Daughter, and there's also a short story, kind of like 1.5, that is available for free on the internet. So you can read all three of these things together. It is a retelling of East of the Sun, West of the Moon, which is a Norwegian precursor to Beauty and the Beast. So Beauty and the Beast is the more commonly known, but that's a popular one. There are a lot of variants of that one kind of everywhere. We have it in print and ebook, 394 pages. So it's not bad, but also it's not like full. There's lots of white space on there. It's the prettiest read. It just reads so nicely. So if you were looking to kind of tagline it, Beauty and the Beast plus Cupid and Psyche plus Tamlin is Echo North. Or like what they have on the front is she dreamed of the wood and the wolf who was trapped there. Okay. So East of the Sun, West of the Moon is originally about a bear who convinces a peasant to give up his youngest daughter for riches. Why? But okay. It's what happened. The girl goes to the enchanted castle. She discovers that the bear becomes a man at night, which she doesn't know because it's dark. Fairy tales, right? It's just we just believe. When she becomes homesick, the bear lets her go home to check on her family. Things, of course, get complicated, and eventually the spell is broken and they live happily ever after. If you put in Cogsworth, it's Beauty and the Beast. That's how that goes. In Echo North, instead, Meyer focuses on the main character, an outcast named Echo, who was scarred by a wolf, and so like no one really likes hanging out with her. She's an outcast, everything's different, and she seeks solace in books. Yeah, and spending time with her father. Her father goes missing. Don't worry, also happens early in the book. This is a known thing. So she goes searching to find him and finds him in the company of the wolf that attacked her, because that's how stories work. And now the wolf talks, just to throw a little bit of a twist in there. So Echo goes to live with the wolf for a year in exchange for her father's safe return. But everything isn't quite as easy as that. The wolf lives in an enchanted home below the mountain that has these magical rooms that Echo has to kind of figure out before her time is up, her year, in order to save herself and everything and everyone she's come to care for. So it's like just a little bit more complicated. I chose it because it's just a thoughtful and different take on that kind of classic Beauty and the Beast trope. I like the lyrical nature of the text. It's like those my other picks. I read it and it was a 5-star, and then I read everything that I can get my hands on. It's like, when is Wind Daughter coming out? I had my hold early and I got it. The rest of the series just has that tone. It's just a nice set of stories to get into without committing to like the Wheel of Time 13 book, like epic thing. It's just a nice little slice of a world, and each book kind of like looks at a different part of it. So it's just lovely. Honorable mentions, just read anything that Joanna Ruth Meyer, if you like her, because she has lots of stories. And then also the Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber, who wrote Caraval. Also kind of in the same vein, very good. Okay, Lori, tell me more. What else am I adding to my TBR list?
Well, before I jump into that, I just have to give full kudos and props to Austin for listening to the book that he did. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the title. I actually read that one this summer, thoroughly enjoyed it, but I had to keep flipping back and forth to keep track of the storyline. So I admire like doing it on audio. Well done.
That's got to be like 32 hours or
I had a lot of
something.
faith that I would figure it all out in the end and just was along for the ride, which it did work. So
Well done. Well done. So this one is actually, it's a bit of a throwback for me. It is called Cinder, and it is by Marissa Meyer. This one actually came out originally in 2017, and I read it around that time. I read actually the whole series then. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'll go back and read it. It has held up very well. I have to do full disclosure here. It was not until I read it the second time that I actually looked closely enough at the cover to realize that there is a hint to the story actually in the cover art. So that's just me. This is a retelling of Cinderella, but instead of being set in fairy tale land, it is actually taking a science fiction slant on it. It is set in a futuristic version of the world in China, in New Beijing. The rest of it is pretty much as you would expect, other than Cinder, as she is known, is actually a cyborg. She's part human, part robot, and as such, she is treated very much as a second-class citizen. She has got the nasty stepmother, she's got the nasty stepsister. She has her meet cute with the prince when he comes into her shop to get his android fixed. In this case, this is a robot, this is not a phone. And in the end, they must, of course, join together to battle the evil queen to find a cure for a fatal disease that is wiping out everyone on Earth. The evil queen actually is part of the lunar population, and they live on the moon, as you would expect. It's a really good retelling. It hits a lot of the things we've already talked about, reclaiming more female power, the idea of it explores some things too, like the idea of being like a second-class citizen. Where are we going in our world, and where could we end up? Logically, we won't end up quite here, but it's just a great way to take a lens and to have it, just have people look at our current world a little bit more thoughtfully. I shared this with a teenage friend of mine who thoroughly enjoyed it. They picked up on the cover art right away. Good on them. And they were also, we had actually a lot of really great discussions after reading this one. They went on to read the rest in the series. So a great book. It is a YA book, but still a good book for adults. It is a great discussion starter if you have a teen in your life and you're not quite sure what you want to talk about, or given the world and the wider world, this is a good kind of an entry point into those discussions and whatnot. There are two series actually that go on from this one. So the next one in this series is called Scarlet. Once again, highly recommend having the entire series in front of you before reading the first one. And it also goes on and is continued in a graphic novel series where the primary characters in this series appear as secondary characters in the other ones. So a little bit older, but still great. This is Cinder by Marissa Meyer. And now Austin is up.
It's funny. I've seen that cover so many times that I did not know it was sci-fi like that. That sounds really cool. So my next pick is also from our YA collection, a bit older. It's Through the Woods by E.M. Carroll. And I figured to start off, since it is a graphic novel, just reading through the introduction to kind of set the scene would maybe be the best bet. So an introduction. When I was little, I used to read before I slept at night, and I read by the light of a lamp clipped to my headboard. Stark white and bright against the darkness of my room, I dreaded turning it off. What if I reached out just past the edge of the bed and something waiting there grabbed me and pulled me down into the dark? So that intro really sets things perfectly for the scene of Through the Woods, which is an anthology of 5 kind of mysterious and spine-tingling stories. It's sort of part fairy tale, part Edgar Allan Poe, and it was first published over 10 years ago in 2014. But to me, at least, is now kind of a classic in Canadian graphic novels, and is something I do frequently recommend at the library, both to adults and teens that like horror and are interested in graphic novels. It's a really good introduction to that format. And yeah, the 5 stories have kind of innocuous titles like A Lady's Hands Are Cold and My Friend Jana, but definitely make no mistake, each is very chilling and spooky in its own unique way. And I'm not usually a big horror fan, but I like them in shorter formats like this. And in the graphic novel format, there's a lot of really beautiful art, so that helps. And the horror is kind of very quiet. It's still very spooky and sinister. And even though it is intended for young adult audiences, it is pretty freaky. And I think a lot of adults would agree with me there too. So definitely not for the faint of heart, but it is for YA. So I'd say it doesn't take things too far. The art in the book is really gorgeous too. So I just kind of took a few segments there. So it's very kind of stylistic, often a very limited palette, but there's like beautiful kind of spots of red for blood or for the chilling ghost voices and things like that. So another one there, pretty freaky stuff. But yeah, I really like the art in it. And although none of the stories are kind of direct retellings of fairy tales, all feel very fairy tale-esque in their themes and the way they tell the stories. A lot of strong female characters in this book as well. So if you like fairy tales and spooky books, and are maybe new to graphic novels, definitely give this one a try. Spending kind of a cold Saturday morning in October curled up with this and fall flavored coffee of your choice sounds pretty perfect. So recommend checking that out. And I think now we're on to Courtney's first lightning pick.
I liked that one. That one was very Edward Gorey to me. Like it took me back into that, and it was good. Yeah. I like graphic novels, so my lightnings are both graphic novels too. Do you know Fables by Bill Willingham? If you don't, buckle up because there's lots of them. So these were originally published in 2002, and there's 165 issues and additional spin-off series. And it's an adult fiction graphic novel. This is a compendium. So that means it's going to be the first 41 issues together. And there are 4 compendiums, which were just more recently published. So it kind of like puts everything together. So you can like get a whole bunch done all at once. It's a retelling of every single fairy tale because the main characters are like Snow White and Prince Charming and all Cinderella. They're all there. Um, Big Bad Wolf. We have them in print, of course, because it's a compendium. It's like over 1,000 pages because that's how things work. It's Legends in Exile. I'm not doing this quickly. I'm going to try to be faster. When a savage creature known as the Adversary conquered the fabled lands of legends and fairy tales, the famous inhabitants of folklore were forced into exile. So, disguised among the normal citizens of modern New York, these magical characters have their own, like, separate magical space, a peaceful and secret society, which they call Fabletown. So, it, like, exists within modern New York. So, you have these classic fairy tales just opposed with modern New York. And it's weird and it turns it on its head. And I picked it because of that. I liked the art. It's got all of these stories. It flips it on its head. And there's just so many stories you can go, so many places you can take it. Trigger warning, this is an adult graphic novel for adults. There are some adult themes and images, so govern yourself accordingly. And if I was trying to recommend something else that was like Fables, but maybe not so adulty, I would do Neverlanders by Tom Taylor, or if you want more adulty things with like super cool art, the I Hate Fairyland series by Scotty Young is just super violent and graphic and just so much fun. That was a non-lightning. There you go.
That was a rolling lightning round. So
That's what we'll call it. I like it.
So all the thanks to Courtney, because I am not a graphic novel reader, but thanks to you, I'm getting more and more into that format. And as a result, as an homage, here's my lightning pick, a graphic novel. This one is called Hollow, and I bet you can't base, this is again, a little outside the whole concept, but it is based on Sleepy Hollow. Izzy Crane and her family have just moved to Sleepy Hollow, the town made famous by and obsessed with the legend of the Headless Horseman. But City Slicker Izzy has no time for superstition as she navigates life at a new high school. Ghost stories aren't real, after all. So this is a light, fun read. It is very much a lot of take on, of course, Sleepy Hollow. It's great for this time of year. I really liked the art that's in here. I like the drawings and the colors that are used. Personally, I am a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan, so if you like Buffy, you will like this. You've got the whole gang in there, a similar kind of a Scooby Gang thing going on, which is a lot of fun. I like there's a lot of body positivity in this one, that the main characters that they have a crush on each other. This turns some things on its head, but there's some surprises and some fun, a few chills, but overall just fun. And this one's for Courtney.
I've read it. I put a hold on the second one. I'm very excited.
I am going to check that out too. That seems
It's
perfect
it's
for
good.
October. So my first lightning round pick is The Merry Spinster, Tales of Everyday Horror by Daniel Lavery. So I was first introduced to this short story collection when looking for spooky stories for the library's adult storytime program that I'm a part of. And like with my last selection, so I'm not a big horror fan, but I do like it sometimes in shorter stories like this. And these stories are adapted from a number of classic fairy tales, so Beauty and the Beast, The Little Mermaid, but definitely make no mistake, these are more Brothers Grimm than Walt Disney. There's some mature themes for sure. And a lot of the stories also feature some really interesting commentary about gender identity and gender roles, which we've kind of talked about for sure. And somehow it does all this while still also being really funny, which is nice. So stories are inspired by the original fairy tales, but there's a lot of like modern humor and vernacular. A lot of the stories have the characters kind of interacting with things like their thoughts are very kind of modern, reacting to these fantastic weird things, which is really funny. So yeah, there's the right amount of spine tingling ickiness, but also it's just really fun.
That one's been on my TBR for like a long time, so I'm glad you brought it up because then I was like, oh yeah, I need to read that. I forgot I needed to read that book. Okay, my last one is another graphic novel. This is brand new. We just got this. And then I read it and realized, oh, this is perfect because it's a fairy tale retelling. So this is called The Lost Sunday by Elena Sertican. It's a junior fiction graphic novel. It's a retelling of a couple of different things. It's a mix of Frau Halle, the old man's wise daughter, or the old woman's daughter and the old man's daughter, but there are versions of this. This is a common trope across the world. We have it in print. It's 68 pages and it's a beautifully illustrated story. Where's like it's pretty about burnout and working too much, which I did not expect. So they've taken this thing and they've flipped it. Nina lives in a dusty town haunted by 6 angry wolves that are named after the days of the week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But each day brings never-ending chores. Where is she? She's just constantly working. It's never done. And no one can get rest until it's done, but it never ends. So legend speaks of this magical 7th kinder wolf, but everybody knows that an evil witch stole it and keeps it locked away. But Nina has had enough, and she sets out on an ambitious quest to go to the Forgotten Realms, vanquish the witch, bring back Sunday, and have enough free time for everyone. I picked it because I read it and it was great, and then I read the back and I was like, oh, it's a fairy tale retelling. Well, isn't that timely? It's beautiful. And in this stupid world of hustle culture, we all need to recognize burnout, fight against it, and also teach children that maybe that's not the way. And this is just a lovely way to do it. It's honestly, my nieces don't watch this, but you're getting this for Christmas. Um, so yeah, The Lost Sunday is excellent. If I was to pick another book similar to it that we have in the collection, Nordlies by Malin Falk is also beautiful and kind of in the same vein of things. So yeah.
Excellent. I promise if I see your nieces, I will not spoil their Christmas surprise. So to bring us kind of full circle, I am also doing another take on Peter Pan. This one is called Tiger Lily and the Secret Treasure of Neverland. And this is a retelling by the Métis author Sherilyn Dimeline, who has also written, of course, The Marrow Thieves and brilliant, brilliant other stories. I love that the fact that, because I watched Peter Pan as a child and even then cringed. So the whole Disney thing, this is such a great way to have children read and appreciate this story and actually understand some of the folks that are in the story, and the way that they were portrayed is not, no, that's just no. The basic plot here is that Tiger Lily and her people live in Neverland, but they can grow up if they choose to do so. Tiger Lily isn't sure that she really wants to. She likes being a child. She likes being able to explore and to do things. And then, dun dun dun, the pirates come, of course, as they do, and she has to foil their plans to steal a treasure from Neverland. It was so lovely to revisit the story, to see it through a different person's eyes who's actually telling the story as it should be told, of these people, talking a lot about Indigenous culture, Indigenous teachings, just even without being very didactic about it, just showing and exploring. And yes, highly recommend. Definitely, if you ever wanted to explore a fairy tale adjacent genre, again, so many retellings of Peter Pan, you could have that on your entire TBR list and not get through it in under a year. So lightning pick, Tiger Lily and the Secret Treasure of Neverland. And Austin.
All right. So my last pick is After the Fall. This is a picture book by legendary and award-winning author and illustrator Dan Santat. So it features our favorite egg, Humpty Dumpty, talking about his life after falling from the wall. So the way he now kind of lives in fear of heights. And while his shell has been put together, there's some parts of him that bandages and glue can't fix. So, like a lot of great retellings, this one kind of goes beyond the original tale, asking questions like, why did Humpty Dumpty climb the wall in the first place? And how does he get back up after? That sort of thing, which is a lot of fun. It features a good lesson for kids. And yeah, a lot of the story kind of reads like Humpty Dumpty giving a TED talk, I felt like. I could imagine that. But it also features a really good twist ending, which usually I don't like saying there's a twist in a book, but at only 40 pages, I don't feel too bad about this one. So definitely check it out. Read for kids, but also for yourself, because it's really beautiful art and pretty funny too.
One of my favorite kids author illustrators. Just everything is so pretty, but also so well done. Yeah. Ugh, everyone, magical, wonderful, marvelous picks all around. I love it. We're recapturing fairy tales and making them what we want. I love it. Yeah. If you enjoyed the program, please check out our other staff pick episodes on the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I hope you found a whole bunch of new books, and I hope to see you the next time we do staff picks. Thanks, Austin and Lori. I had a great time.
That was super fun. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Bye, everyone.